So, there is no theme for this video. Some people just like to, for example, paint their miniatures while you tell them your experience with tabletop role-playing games. During my years, there was never an agenda. I never had a point to prove to people. I ran the game the way I did, and I thought I did a pretty good job. And I thought all areas of the game were fun. So when I would meet a player that would tell me they weren't into something like, say, social interaction in the game, I would want to give them the experience of social interaction in my game because I felt like they were missing out, and I felt like they assumed a lot about what that meant, what it was, what they were doing. Some guys felt like they had to do a special, unique voice for their character or they would be judged as being a bad player. I knew, I had no agenda, but I just knew this. I knew they didn't need to do that to be a great, even the best player in the hobby. We use, things from drama class. We definitely borrow from that. But it's about the imagination and how people take you in. And doing a unique voice doesn't make you the best player at the table. I don't say this to degrade people that can do a unique voice. It is a great talent, and definitely it's fun when a player can come do a unique voice. But if anybody tells me that means they are a better player than a person that can't, right away I know that's not true, not even slightly true. Let me tell you how I know this. I know the imagination of players and how they're taking things in the game. First off, I don't want people to be jaded about how they view the experience. I don't want them thinking or judging anything. All they have to do is try to take the game in. Just play to it. Don't think about it. Just do what you're doing. My first DM would never do a unique voice. But every time he voiced an NPC, he would do manipulation. Not trickery, not manipulation in a bad way, but slight manipulation that would allow you to take in that NPC as unique. It would be, it would be great. It would be fun. And you would never think there's something missing. You would not hear him speaking. You would take the NPC in the way they were. His manipulation was to focus on tone. Very simple thing. If it was somebody who was at his voice level, then he wouldn't change the tone, the normal way he speaks. But what he would do is focus on how they speak, meaning what words would they use, and not just say it in his own cadence. He would try to speak in a way that that person might speak, meaning he wouldn't just echo his own method of saying something. He would purposely change it, right? So if he was aggressive on a certain statement, the NPC who he was talking for wouldn't be aggressive with the same words. But yet he didn't change the tone in his voice. If the character had a deeper voice, this was the intention, the tone would get deeper. Again, he would simply go into the type of words that character or that NPC would say. And again, he would not use his own method of speaking. He understood how he spoke and could just simply understand he might be very forceful or forward with the way he speaks. So he would make sure if that character wasn't that way, he wouldn't be so forward. He would hold back. He would be careful. These are light changes in speech, but it works. If he was speaking as a female character, he would soften the tone, but he could even make sure he was being a little bit more forward if it was a more, say, how can I say, stronger mentally, woman who is going to push a pretty harsh way of speaking, but he would soften the tone for female characters. Sometimes he would go really soft if it was more feminine. He would go a little more softer than himself, but keep a tone that might lean into talking like a guy if it was more like a tomboy, for example, female character. Or he'd be very forward, even if he softened the tone a bit, if it was like a warrior female. So change in tone, how he speaks, these small manipulations in what he's doing right away plays to your imagination. You'll take it in as the female warrior or as the feminine female merchant, or you would take in a more brutish, bigger male soldier, or somebody who's more on his level, like a normal guy. But the manipulation is, he would, again, for the normal guy that speaks more like himself, he wouldn't use his own cadence. So if he was very forward in his form of speech, he would change it up for the NPC. It did not take a genius to do what he was doing as a game master. And when you're using your imagination and trying to take people in, this works. It is very powerful. As long as you don't have people that are going to be jaded or overthink what is going on. If you simply play the game, you will take the NPCs in as they are separate from him. Even if a player at the table did a unique voice, that would work for so long, but after a bit, it didn't have the same jingle. Like it was interesting for like a session or so, but then you're taking that person in, even with the accent, in a normal way. You might be impressed with the skill of the unique voice, but if that person wasn't good with other things like tone or what they said or how they said it or even how they played, it didn't make them a great player. And if they weren't good in their speech pattern, the unique voice wouldn't work. It would actually stick out in a bad way. That person would not be good at social interaction. Meaning overall, the shift and change in cadence in the way he would speak worked better as a manipulation, actually made him better at social interaction than somebody doing a unique voice who did not use these methods like change in tone or how they speak. So it was good to learn that, because it meant that a lot of people that would be intimidated about their social interaction role play, well, once they've learned that the only thing you might have to play with is your tone, and then remember your character is separate from you, so they don't speak like you, they might speak slightly different, and you work on that, you focus on that, well, you can create a unique character and do social interaction and be really good as a player in this field. I took a lot of people that thought they just liked mostly dungeon crawling. They thought that was their fun, because they were intimidated about playing social interaction. I would not even talk them through this at first. My first push would be, don't worry about teaching them this method. I'm not even worried. I want them just talking. At least getting the idea in their head that it's okay to speak in character. Because as much as the method works, here's what I found. Just teaching the method didn't get people more secure with speaking in character. The method was easy, anybody could pick it up, but that wasn't the case. So what I would do with a player like that coming into my game is I would have NPCs take opportunities to speak to them, and speak to them often, but like casually, like have an NPC barkeep speak to the character, so the player has to say something, and then have another NPC speak to them another way, but keep speaking to them, like treating it like the way the player is talking is completely fine. No judging, no nothing. And what the player would also realize, without the manipulation, other players are really focused on playing. So in a way, you don't need to impress anyone, just speak. even if you speak with your own cadence and even your own tone. Up front, at the end of the day, what you think is impressing people usually isn't. It just doesn't matter. Everyone's there to play a game. No one at the table is actually judging if you're good or bad. It's just, hey, are you going to take part in the conversation? The other players are not concerned with you being good with a special voice. So first off, I want players to realize that the manipulation can work with the tone. Very impressive to work with this stuff, but in reality, nobody is judging. So it doesn't matter if you use these trickeries. These tricks are more for a DM to understand things. True, because we're going to do a variety of characters. At the end of the day, it's not really a skill you need up front. If you just speak as yourself to a degree with your character, the other players are just going to speak back to you in character, and you're not going to be judged. It's not even going to be noticed. It's not even going to be a thing whatsoever. Now, it will be true if you keep playing characters and you always use your own cadence and your own tone. So when players are first getting to know you, it doesn't really matter. Not really matter. But if they play with you long enough, they'll start noticing. So, you go from, I want you to learn that you can just speak, have fun, and you won't be judged. People are there to have fun. We're not in a competition to see who's good. So on that first run, I just want you to speak. That's it. So I'll have NPCs speaking to you. And what it is without you knowing, there's a little bit of manipulation there. I'm just getting you to react. It's a trigger, talking. And you're going to find that answering the barkeep is effective. They'll ask you questions. It's effective to say things out loud. The next NPC you meet, you'll speak to them, and it will bring you benefit. You'll speak out loud. You'll answer questions. Boom. When you speak to the merchant, well, guess what, man? You can talk the price down of the good. You'll experience the benefits of actually talking in character without any skill at all. So I want you to see that it's actually a good part of the game. And I want players to realize that as they get comfortable with it, they can do it. It's actually a normal part of the game, and any player, even the players that think it's not their thing, once they begin speaking in character, like over and over again, like repeat it, a little bit of pressure on them to do so, because NPCs are constantly coming up and asking that player questions. Now, I was wise. I'd always talk to more experienced players and ask them to pay attention to things, like guys that I knew would take initiative. If you notice, I have NPCs talking to a new player coming in. Hey, every so often talk to that guy. Because I knew they had the initiative to talk to somebody, and they had the comfort already. And they would. And they wouldn't judge. They would just assist. Just like acting like the NPC. They talk. In almost every case that I met a player who had avoided doing social interaction, once I got them into the lane of comfort and seeing the effectiveness, the benefits to their character into the game of actually doing social interaction, and the more relaxed they got with it, the more they actually enjoyed it unexpectedly. Note, I'm doing the manipulation without focusing on it. Like, I'm not telling them I'm doing this to them. I'm just doing it. I don't say anything. I just do it. I don't put pressure on them before the game. Like, man, I'd like you to do more social interaction. I just wouldn't say anything. I'm just doing this. I'd say this because I don't really have a case where it didn't work. In 100% of the cases, and I DM'd many players, so I ran into a lot of players that were very stiff on doing social interaction. Once I got them comfortable with it, they wouldn't shut the fuck up. So now they're in the game just openly talking in character. Just no shame, not shy, nothing. So if they go to make a new character, I'd be like, well, this guy, what, is he a little bigger? Yeah. Man, he would talk heavier, wouldn't he? Like, what, can you do a little deeper voice? Like, a little deeper, and I'd be like, I would just raise, like, here's how I'm talking now. I'd be like, hey man, what's up, how you doing? That's a change in tone right there. And I would say like, hey man, yeah, what's up, how you doing? I might put a little like ease into what I'm saying, but this guy's going to say, "Hey man, what's up? How you doing?" He's a little bit more dry, a little bit maybe more slow. He's not as charismatic on purpose, because I'm actually purposely not wanting to do a charismatic bigger guy. A bigger guy who's not like outgoing, jock like, slight change in tone. I mean slight. Nothing huge. Nothing big. Manipulation is minor. It doesn't have to be a huge issue. So I get him to just, hey, start doing deeper, slightly deeper. Well, man, he speaks a little slower. You don't get to speak as fast, right? And remember, I get the player to the stage where they're comfortable and constantly talking. So now they start applying this, and well, they're already comfortable with talking, so they don't want to shut up. So now they're pushing it and pushing it until they're comfortable with the new tone and change, and there they go. They are now learning that, and it really works. Now he'll notice, the player will notice that the other players are taking in the fact that this new character is bigger, talks in a different way, and their imagination picks up on it strongly. But it's slight. Manipulation is minor and slight. Doesn't take much, and it works. It powerfully works. Maybe if he played a halfling, like a smaller character who's nicer, like, hey man, how you doing? Like, it's lower the tone. Hey man, I really like you. You're a really nice guy. Oh yeah? Could I help you do this? Come over here. I soften tone. I speak in a nicer way, maybe a little deceitful because he's playing a halfling thief. Hey man, how you doing? I hear you. Come talk to me. Yeah, want to know what my name is? Softer tone, slight change. There's a bit of happiness, but happiness deceitful, right? It's a bit of slight deceit in the way the person is speaking, right? Right? There's a slight bit of fakery in there. Maybe even hard to notice, but that's good. The mind will take it in. It's all through minor manipulation. So the players will now take it in better that he's gone from playing a bigger brute guy who might be a jock to a small halfling who is speaking in a softer tone like this small thief. And these are methods I would use to advance the player who thought he would never be into social interaction to go from comfortable talking to the minor changes in tone and speak, the cadence and the way he would speak. And I make him into a fantastic player. And any game master who got that player after me, especially the ones that had ran for the guy before, it would be like, what did you do to this guy? Like, he's amazing when it comes to speaking in character. This guy, and I would hear this from DMs that DM guys before I met them. Like, this guy wouldn't say a word in my game. Did he just pick this up on his own? And I would honestly, without giving it away, go, yeah, man, he came in, just roleplayed. It was good. Like, wow, really? Yeah, he picked it up. He got more comfortable. And I would give the credit to the player. But after a while, if guys really talked to me deeply, they would know that it was me. And players would usually say, I improved from playing his game. So even if I was nice enough and humble enough not to take any credit or talk in a certain way, every player that left my game would always credit me as improving their gameplay. Because really, social interaction is not like you need to be in a drama class. It is effective for the game, planning things out, buying things from a merchant. There's so many minor gameplay elements that are actually pretty good. If you're comfortable talking in character, that can simply be fun. Like, it has its place in the game. Like, even negotiating with monsters, because that is part of the game, like, enemies or potential things that you're encountering, it's going to be really awkward if you're uncomfortable with just speaking. Right, so how do you negotiate? What, roll a charisma check? Do you always have to? Anyway, what I learned as a game master over the years is the whole unique voice thing. There's nothing wrong with it, and I don't want to insult people that can do them. And I think it's interesting. But I like to tell normal people that don't do unique voices, look, it's not a competition what we're doing here. It is about having fun. But in reality, no, the guy doing the unique voice, it doesn't make him a better player. If he doesn't understand minor changes, manipulation, and the imagination, a special voice does not allow you to overcome these things. And I know some players that would do a unique voice and they just go to it every time. And they wouldn't change tone, they talk the same, and people would pick up on how that's not good. Especially if they played with that person for a while. Like, okay, your character just sounds like that again. Like, you would start noticing it even if you didn't mean to. So, where I learned to advance players to make them better is to get them initially talking and then teach them in very basic ways to change tone and cadence and how they speak for each new character. And anybody can do that. Here's another trick to the whole social interaction thing that's really important with what I did. You know, you'll hear AD&D 1E guys talk about, you know, you could develop a character over a year, like it could take a year or something, but once you did, you truly be immersed into the game. That was true, but the thing is, in AD&D 1, it's not an insult, there's nothing really written in there that tells you to focus on doing what I'm talking about. If you did what I was talking about, instead of taking a year to develop a character, like, because you're focusing on cadence and tone, you would develop a character, like, pretty deeply, surprisingly enough, separated from who you were in less than 10 sessions. Easy, because you're going in and actually focusing, and you're comfortable with social interaction, but you're focusing on doing it, and you're doing these changes to make the character unique. You would automatically develop the character. It wouldn't take a year. And it is true that once you develop a character, you become more immersed in the game, and there's a reason. When you finally develop somebody who is separate from you, and you did the work to develop that, you start caring about the character almost like they're a person. It would connect you with a character in a more special way, because you want to know what's going to happen next to the character. It's a lot easier to keep wanting to come back to the table when you're interested in the story of the character in the same way you're interested. It's like when you start reading a book. You know, it's like, okay, you start reading, but it really has to catch you. You have to have the characters developed. You have to sort of get to know the people in the story. But once you do, you'll hear statements from people like, man, once I got this far in, I couldn't put the book down. Well, that's part of connecting with the story and the characters. So when you finally separate the character, they become somebody, you do connect with them. And this makes you care, but it also makes you focus more on every part of the game. And it matters what happens to the character. And if something deep happens, you truly become more immersed. Not like being immersed in water, but like the way you would watch a movie or read the book that you care about, like the one that you can't put down. You become immersed in what you're doing with that character in that way more than you would before you develop who the character is. So it's like at the first part of that book, before you connect with the characters or whoever in the story that makes you interested, it's not the same, right? But once you make the connection, that's the moment you need to keep reading. That's the moment you become, in the game, immersed, just like you are in the book when you can't put it down, just like you are in the movie once you are into the story or into what's going on. AD&D First Edition, a lot of people wouldn't focus on trying to develop the character right away. It would just like speak how you want, and then, you know, at one point things will happen. At one point you'll separate, but it wasn't focused on. In Second Edition, which is where I really started DMing, this is where I start really using the tone and getting the changes and getting people to focus on these things. And through the focus and the change and the way Second Edition came at the game, it wanted you to do this. It wanted you to focus on your character. Instead of it taking a year, like I said, it could take 5, 6, 7 sessions to get to a point that it might take you a year to get to in an AD&D Advanced Dungeons and Dragons first edition game. This is why you'll hear the first edition guys talking about, after a long time there'd be this special connection and players would be really immersed. I'm like, yeah, you're right, but it probably could have happened much sooner if there was a bit more focus on certain minor details that would have gotten the player there in 10 sessions or less instead of it taking a year. This is not drama class, and once social interaction becomes a tool a player can use, then they want to use it. And then they realize it's a tool because there's many things that are beneficial to your character and to the game that you can do through social interaction. Like, this is not drama class. There's just many ways for the social interaction to lead to the job that you want, to connect you to certain NPCs for a better deal, to talk down the merchant, to avoid trouble by being able to comfortably speak to the guard and be tricky, say certain things. So there's just a million ways to use social interaction in a gamey sense for a tabletop role-playing game. One thing this allowed me to do as a game master was to have unique city games where I could have groups and make it about politics and gangs and everything else. And next thing you know, you're in a campaign where the city is like a dungeon, but with socializing. There could be combat, and there's ways to be very clever as a person, like to come up with ways to get monsters into the sewers or create potential threatening encounters on the outside, of the city or whatnot. And old school Dungeons and Dragons is not about fighting encounters, it's about surviving. So there could be many threats inside of the city. Either way, there'd be threats just like in the dungeon. And to get to big treasure in the city, just be like in the dungeon. You got to go through dealing with stronger people or whatnot, and they would be treated somewhat like minotaurs guarding something. You should avoid that really and not go for the big money. But was there a good money to be had through dealing with thieves and politics? The type of money you would be looking for in the dungeon? Yes. But you could even have that going, the whole city deal and politics and gangs, and still have a dungeon somewhere outside of the city. So it doesn't mean you need to avoid these elements. It doesn't mean you can't go to the dungeon and then still come back and have an interesting, challenge and sort of like a city dungeon, if you get what I'm saying. But instead of, exact traps, it might be social traps, stuff like that. But I could do a lot of interesting things. And once players have the tools, they already know how to go do the dungeon thing, but now they have the tool to do social interaction. Now they can actually enjoy playing into the city dungeon sort of part, the social combat that's going on. They can actually enjoy it and take part in it. And it's used like a game. Story emerges. I'm not worried about telling a story. I'm worried about you trying to figure out who should you say what to. So it is like a game. The socializing is challenging you, right? A story will emerge from whatever you do. You can go for a walk and a story will emerge from it. I didn't care about the story elements. I never called that part story. I never looked at it that way, because everything, even the social interaction, it's meant to challenge you. It's meant to put things up in front of you. It's like looking at it the same way I look at the dungeon. It is a game, and the tool of social interaction is to be used in that gamey element. You're dealing with challenges. That is all I am doing. If at the end of the day you tell me, well, that's a storytelling method, or it looks like you're trying to tell a story, well, I'm not, and there's random outcome, and there's nothing promised. There's no controlling. See, a storyteller controls everything. The characters, the scene. You control what you're doing. In a game, there is randomness, dice, stuff like that. So in a true sense, you're never truly telling a story, but can a story, a good or bad one, emerge from what you're doing. Yes, that was how stories actually happened in gaming. It emerged from what you were doing. It wasn't something you were intending to do. All the social interaction I'm doing, all the politics is still being treated like a game where there's challenges and you got to get around this. That's the mindset I went into when I'm creating this stuff. At no point did I stop and think, man, I want this to be a great story. So there you go. That's how I approached social interaction in tabletop role-playing games, especially with a game like Dungeons and Dragons. There's a deep value to social interaction. It's something you should not skip, and it's something you should never be intimidated by. And actually, once you're confident with it, there's an amazing amount of things you can do with it. It's actually quite interesting, and I gotta say, it is as interesting dealing with the social aspect of the game through social interaction as it is going through a dungeon. But you gotta become comfortable with it. It becomes a tool, and then it's no longer boring. Then the social combat is as interesting as fighting a group of goblins, right? Or dealing with a trap. Like, it's just one of the many elements. Like, dealing with a trap is not the same as doing combat. Combat's its own thing. Dealing with the trap is another puzzle. Traps and puzzles are just puzzles. The whole game is sort of like a puzzle. But all these elements have something similar. It's all a mind game, challenging your mind to think and overcome these things. And it's all in your imagination, meaning once you have a tool to do something, you'll have fun doing it. But you got to be okay at it. See, you might like the dungeon crawl because you can be good at it. But once you realize how easy it is to be okay, be good actually at social interaction, it becomes a tool you have. Your view of it is no longer, oh, I want to go do the dungeon. It doesn't mean you don't, but it's now you're okay with, yeah, let's go deal with that guy and talk to him and see what's going on there, get answers. And that becomes as interesting as walking up to deal with a trap in a dungeon. But you got to get there. Anyway, that's my take on social interaction. I hope that helps people out there. I hope that helps players that are intimidated by it and realize special voices don't mean that you're a better player. It doesn't mean the guy next to you is a better player. No insult to them. It's a great skill, and you can be great players that do special voices, there's no doubt. But you got to understand all these other elements I talked about in this video. Even other game masters out there, if you skip over a lot of social interaction, I hope my explanations make you more confident that you can actually do it. And I would say if you're skipping over it, you're missing out on a lot. And it doesn't take a lot of hard work to develop a character, or to get your players to develop characters, and the development of the character means they care more. Look, now, I'm old school. Character death should never be something players, can't handle. But if they're numb to it, there's something wrong. It means they're not connecting with their character. So remember, it's okay that a player feels bad about losing a character, but it's not okay that they overreact to it. So they feel bad, but they can handle it, and they make a new character. Because you're not, here's what you're doing. You're taking away an experience that they are having that is good. That's what's happening. They're losing out on an experience. Remember, the death of the character means now they can't have the fun interacting with that guy. Now they can't have the fun playing that character. And you should remember that's what character death is to players that actually give a damn about what they're doing in their character. It's not childish. It's not stupid for them to be bothered by character death. What you should be worried about is an overreaction to it. Like it's unacceptable. No, it's acceptable, but you want players to care, because if they don't care, they're not connecting with their character. And that's actually not a good thing for your game, I would argue. Right? So the second you see players going, yeah, it doesn't matter, that should be a red flag. That should be a red flag the same way the overreaction is. Both extreme ends are not good. You want a middle ground where players can handle losing a character, but at the same time, they're like, that sucks. Because they're not just losing a character. You should understand that they're losing a fun experience if they've built the character up and they're enjoying it, it's the end of an experience. So just understand. So it's like watching a TV show that you like, and it gets to the final season, the final episode. You don't get to see no more episodes of the characters you've gotten used to in the story. That is going to bother you. When you've read a good book and the book is amazing and you get to the end of it and that's it, there is a bit of like loss feel that you have went through personally. So don't sit there and ever shame anybody for feeling that way. That you are confused if you think that's a bad thing. It's a great thing. Actually, what should bother you is when a player seems to not care. Because to me, a player not caring is the same as a character overreacting to character death. Both extremes are bad. You want the middle ground because it is a connection, and that means it improves the experience for the player. And that's what matters, is the experience. So never see a player being bothered as a bad thing. The second you do, I think it's everything just went over your head as a game master. You don't know what you're doing, and you really don't understand how valuable the connection is. You have lost the plot on what's going on. Now, it doesn't mean you think or you have a problem with character death. It just means that there is nothing wrong with making the connection, and the more they make a connection, it's better for the player. And it keeps people coming back to the table. You know what I found with AD&D First Edition? A lot of their campaigns broke down, never got completed, and there was a main reason: lack of connection, character death, players giving up on the campaign. So you'd hear about the rare campaigns that would last forever, but most that I seen last for years, it was because they played long enough that players connected with the characters, and then once they did, they played forever. Because once you're into it, like you are in the novel, you don't want the story to end. That's why people can play the same game for 10 years, because they don't want the story to end, their experience to end. And they know, most players will realize, it's not easy to get there. And when you start a new character after having a character you connect with, when you start a new one, you'll feel the emptiness. Right away, you'll feel like, man, it's not the same. I would just tell you, if you do get to that point that you've had a connection with characters and you're feeling, and this happens to a lot of players that think they're being burnt out or they're getting burnt out, I'm like, no. You have to be patient. Go back to your focus on tone and building the character up. It won't take a year, but go back to your focus and just have the realization. You cannot have that connection right away. So you got to be patient. You got to go through the emptiness of the early experience with the next character, but you will get there. And never just give up on the character. You will get there. Be patient. You will get there. Okay, again, I could talk about this forever, so I gotta stop here. I hope you enjoy this. I hope if you're out there painting minis, I hope this is, I think it's almost like a 40-minute video. I mean, this is going to kill some time for you, and I hope it does. And enjoy your coffee or tea, and hey, I love you.